Good evening and welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Usama Dakdok, who unfortunately has a sore throat. But today we're going to be talking about Abraham in the Quran and the errors that we constantly stumble across. In this case, focusing on Abraham and the difference between Abraham in the Quran, the Bible, and also the Jewish Midrash, Talmud, and so on, and the Jewish legends. And then, of course, today we're going to look at contradictions, how the Quran contradicts itself, how the story is incoherent. I mean, everything is incoherent. But yeah, let's say hello to Usama. Welcome back, Usama.
Hello, Brother Lloyd. How are you? I hope you're doing all great and all our wonderful people are doing great. I cannot wait for the next 2 hours to cover some real good stuff.
Yeah, well, this should be interesting. So we've been looking at this, and yeah, none of it never gets better. There is clearly an agenda at play in the Quran. All of these, all of these names, all of these people are just plot devices. They're not actual stories, and there's no way, for instance, the Quran can prove to a Jew or a Christian that Jesus is the Messiah. It lacks every single substantive reference that is required, every single marker that marks the Messiah. But at the same time, while it needs these other books to explain what the Messiah is based on the historical narrative and the writings, it claims that all of these sources are corrupt. So the Quran
Yeah.
shoots itself in the foot.
I believe, Brother Lloyd, that we more and more I dig into this subject of Islam, the more I know for sure that the source of Islam knowledge or ideology, the teaching of the Quran, it did not actually came from the biblical true account, but from these books, which we call the legends of the Jews. And I believe it's also a result of when some Christians later in the early church, I'm talking about around the third and fourth century, could not find a way to make their invention of the new Christianity to work, and they were removed by the church. They actually went. I'm talking about the Arabs and the people from the Middle East. They moved to Saudi Arabia and they continued to grow their cult there. That's why you see a lot of the teaching of Muhammad about Jesus and Christianity does not fit anything in Christianity, but some cultic beliefs. I mean, the more I dig into it, the more I am convinced Muhammad did not actually have true access or access to the true biblical account, but whatever else written by those cultics who lived the Jewish beliefs, who lived the Christian belief, and they just went on with their fairy tales. And Muhammad loved it, and he added it to his teaching, his Quran, without knowing jack about what he's doing.
You are correct. There's a lot of evidence to actually back up what you're saying. This is something I will be doing on my channel again soon. However, to give a brief background, so once Rome became Christian, right, with the decree of, I believe, Constantine, all of these heretics were kicked out of Rome. They ended up in three major locations. One, in Alexandria in Egypt. Two, they ended up in Haran, which is just across the Turkish border of Syria, in southern Turkey, northern Syria. And three, they ended up in Najran, which is just across the Yemeni border in the south of Arabia, in the south of Saudi Arabia. So there were huge battles going on, and I mean theological battles going on, because all of these heretical sects, all of these Gnostic sects, they ended up there, and they had their own versions of various Bible books, and it was very hard to sort out what was true, what was not. And then, of course, there weren't complete Bibles. One recent paper now puts forward that the most likely version of the Bible that was floating around in Arabia at that time was the Syriac Peshitta. And there's lots of discussion of Syriac influence on Muhammad. He goes to Syria and so on. There's so many stories regarding Syria. There's lots of heresies that come out of Syria. And then on top of that, you have one more thing that few people talk about, but there was a complete Bible in Arabia in the second and third centuries. This would be the Ge'ez Bible from Ethiopia, because at one time they were the fourth largest empire on earth. They were trading with everyone, and they were in charge of Arabia, and they had their own Bible. And the only other language that, according to Islamic tradition, Muhammad spoke was Ethiopic. His midwife was Ethiopic. The woman who stayed with him his whole life right, was Ethiopic,
Mhm.
and he used to listen to Ethiopians recite the Bible in Mecca, supposedly. And these Ethiopians, they controlled that region. And in fact, the earliest Muhammad inscription we have calls MHND is God, and God with his Son and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and don't forget, as we investigate the linguistic words which Muhammad used all over the Quran, we find Syriac is the most repeated, or is a large number of foreign words in the Quran are Syriac. I know we have some Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic, but Syriac is big, big. If you look at my translation of the Quran, you would be shocked the number of Syriac words, and I believe that is the influence of the what's going on around Muhammad and the people who he's talking to, who spoke the Syriac language, and he picked up so many words without even realize that these are Syriac words. That is obviously, if that is the true case, that Muhammad is the one who made up his Quran in the early years of Islam, because as we know, there's more study now showing that the Quran was actually invented up north, not south, by I can say Nahran, not Najran, and only God knows the true history. It's impossible really to put your finger on all these new information floating all over the scholars studies. So can't wait to see what more is coming in the next few years here.
Yeah, I'll at one point when you're talking, I'll try and find my Excel sheet on the Syriac words in the Quran. Or yeah, so the foreign words in the Quran. So for now, let me go to my OneDrive.
I can actually share with you some from my own Quran. If you go in the back for foreign words, you're going to see lots of Syriacs.
Okay, so where in the back would I find it?
In the end of my Quran, non-Arabic words, and you're going to see them in a big list. And boy, oh boy,
Here we
lots
go.
of Syriac. You see Greek, you see Hebrew, you see
Oh, Syriac.
Aramaic. What's the same?
Ababil,
Syriac.
Hebrew,
Origin,
Syriac.
Syriac origin. I mean, there's plenty of words.
Uh,
And by the way, these words are not only mentioned in the Quran once or twice. Some of these words are mentioned over 100 times in different format, you know?
Crazy, right? Okay, so let me do a quick search here. Um, okay, yeah, so let us go to so there's this starting with A, so that's quite a lot. Aramaic, Hebrew, Syriac. Aramaic, Hebrew, Syriac. Yeah, so it's not very original. Akkadian, Aramaic. Okay, very interesting. Al-Sahar, right. Okay, so today we're talking about, and you can, when I hear the name Muhammad, I put the coffee on immediately because I know I'll be having a headache. Jesus, take the wheel. Yes. So, yeah, Hebrews 11 says, who invented the argument that a foreign word in the Quran becomes Arabic? It's just another assertion. It's another empty claim. It's what Muslims always make. Yeah, nothing changes. All right, so logical contradictions and tensions. Name of Abraham's father. So the Quran calls Abraham's father Azhar or Azar, right?
Azar,
Quran 674. But we know from the much more ancient sources like in Genesis, and don't forget, the Bible is the single most attested ancient document on earth, right? No one questions the story of Alexander the Great, but there's only like 5 copies of his story in existence, and they're very, very late. Whereas the Bible, we can trace the Bible back to hundreds of years BC, right? Dead Sea Scrolls, other scroll collections. There's more than the Dead Sea Scrolls that have been found now. There's numerous other. Masada, they found things in other locations. We found multiple different sites with collections of scrolls, and we can now confirm the Bible is the same. We even know the Peshitta is the same as what we have today, right? So we know his name is Terah, and yet somehow they get his name wrong, which is nuts. And also,
and you know what I'd like about that, if you don't mind, Brother Lloyd, I'll share quickly. When you read the interpretation of Al-Tabri or Ibn Kathir, by accident, they will tell you Tarih, not Azar, as they were taking material from the Jewish writers. So how in the world, or from the Torah, I think, for example. So your Quran said Azar, and your scholar used the word Tarih. What is wrong with the picture here?
I think they have reading comprehension issues, or they just didn't know, or someone gave them the wrong name and just to make fun of
Here's, look at your list. It
them,
says the Syriac.
and they just
It
ran
is
with
the
it. They said,
largest
yeah, yeah,
number
yeah.
of words.
I mean, it's a proper Bible if they have proper knowledge. Say again,
Yeah,
please.
look at
Usama, you just
more
broke
than
up
any
there.
other language. We have more than Aramaic, more than Hebrew, more than Greek and Ethiopic, and whatever other language. But Syriac is the largest amount of foreign words in the Quran.
Now, that is an interesting observation. You know, it says here, let's have a look, Syriac, right? Now, this is from Jeffrey's survey. Your camera is frozen, Usama.
No, it's not. I'm not. I
Yeah,
was
I know,
just
it's
sitting.
frozen.
It's
So
frozen
let me
now.
just stop and start your camera again. Just stop and start your video. Okay, so yeah. So guys, this is from Foreign Words in the Quran by Arthur Jeffrey, right? And this is a list that I made some time ago. He's dropped off. Let's hope he comes back. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, am I moving? Do you see my lips moving?
You know, Allah works in mysterious ways. You know, Allah hates you because you're beautiful,
Oh,
and
thank
He was
you.
trying to keep you from being on
Mesh,
the channel.
mesh.
Okay, so let's have a look here. Let's just zoom into the relevant section. So this is Arthur Jeffrey's 1938 survey. We know that this number can be updated since, but at least nearly a century ago, there was knowledge of this. Syriac is the largest set of words, right? And then Aramaic. Now, Syriac, Aramaic, they are certain similarities. They're part of the same language family and same regional grouping. Not identical, but they are similar. So you can see between these two, which means that they were using Aramaic Syriac. That's a
You can
huge
have
number.
of Hebrew, and then you go to the Arabic. They're like Semitic language, yeah.
And if you look at Ethiopic, right? Now, oddly, if you go to Coptic, Coptic only comes 22nd. Now, lots of people think that but so the Coptic, so it's not Egyptian. Clearly, we've got Ethiopic here as another large influence, right? There's some Greek, which means you were dealing with the Evangelion, right? And then you've got Persian. This is both Persian, Akkadian, South Arabian. This is not Arabic as we know it. This would be a different language at the time. And then you have Armenian, Phoenician, Avestic, Mandaean, Sanskrit, Pazan, Nabatean, Safaite. So there's the story that Islam started in Nabatea, in Petra. But if you notice, there's such a small number of words taken from there, so it can't be the major influence.
Do you think the Coptic is less, is only 22nd down there because of Mary, the Coptic slave who Muhammad married later in his life? That's why he didn't have enough time to take more Coptic language, Coptic words.
I mean, who knows? And look, it might have been 100% Coptic to begin with in the Quran, and then maybe over time they added other words. Who knows? I mean, it could be, but it would seem that it starts with these languages. These four here seem these five sit
But
at a high level.
No one believes the Quran is pure Arabic. I mean, like pure Arabic. You know what pure Arabic means?
Yeah, it means made up of multiple languages. It's Latin for made up of multiple languages. So here you've got Sogdian. This goes back to Armenian, Talmudic, Kurdish, Ossetian, Turfan, Judeo-Persian, Malayalam, words from India. So yeah, there's plenty of different sources for this. So that should teach us something.
Yep. Muhammad was ears, as Allah stated in the Quran. Ears is when you hear and you write what you hear.
All right. Okay, so a couple of things. So you can tell me, so Islamic efforts, they try to redefine azar, right? The word for the father of Abraham as uncle, epithet, which is a title, or idolater. But this contradicts the Quran's own abihi, his father. What does that mean, Sama?
I don't know what the word abjiji. What is that?
Okay, not sure. So,
what is this? Can you give me the verse for it, if you don't mind?
Hold on. Let me try and find that for you. Give me a second.
If I can get the Quran verse, that'll help me a lot.
Let me find that. Give me a sec.
Uh,
I thought you read through this. I thought because I gave you this document, I thought you had time to look at it because you
I
wanted
did
to
not
get
finish. Man, you sent me too much
Quran
material.
674. So okay,
674.
give me a second. I'm just gonna provide it here now.
It isn't
You'll be
easy
able to read this.
to please a wheezy.
Here we go. Yeah, there we go.
674.
Yeah, Arabic. Here we
Yeah,
go.
Arabic or English, because I'm in Arabic.
It is explicit in Quran 674, literal sense when Abraham said to his father. So this should be this here in Arabic. Does that make sense? The verse
بس
used.
قال ابراهيم لابيه أزار أتتخذ أصناما آلهة إني أراك قومك في ضلال مبين. Well, بس قال ابراهيم لابيه أزار أتتخذ أصناما آلهة. Yeah, what is the point here?
So
Abraham said to his father, Azar, did you take the idols as gods? That's what it said in Arabic.
okay, and what's this abihi? Li abihi? What's that?
Abihi, his father. Abihi. It's written weird. It's supposed Abehi, Abihi, his father. And what word is Abihi? What language is that?
I have no idea what languages abihi is. Let's find out. Okay.
Abuhu in Arabic is his father. Abihi, which is what's written, that could be his father too. Who knows? Abihi, his father. Yeah, it is translated right. You see, his father next to it. The Quran's own Abihi, his
Arabic.
father. That's
Okay.
Arabic.
So it doesn't use the word azhar. So what does this tell us? What's the conclusion that we draw?
I have no idea where Muhammad come up with that name. I have no clue.
Okay. So
And I know that's the problem with Azar. That's the problem with almost every name Muhammad put in the Quran. They're all wrong names.
True.
If he mentioned names, because in many cases he would say two among them, the one in the middle, the one on the right side, the one in the left. Are you kidding me?
The Quran used to be a picture book. Used to have drawings, and you could see the one on the left, but they took the pictures out because
No,
because
on the right side of the mountain. Where were you standing when you looked at the mountain? From the north or the south or east or the west? Is this like one way you can stop there? That's ridiculous.
So Oa says the script seems Nabatean, which was spread in that area, but the language seems to be primarily Syro-Aramaic. So people just assume since the script is Nabatean, then the language had to be as well. So then you're looking at Syro-Aramaic written in with Nabatean script. Okay, that would be interesting. That's interesting information. Okay, so let's see this one. So I prepared this for Usama, so I'm not all that clear myself. But remember, Abraham says, "This is my Lord." He says it about the stars, the moon, and the sun before he rejects them, right? But Islamic doctrine teaches that prophets do not commit shirk, right? They do not sin. Yet, even in the Quran, there are prophets that sin. There are prophets that defy God, right? So initial attribution of lordship to created bodies. So it shows that Abraham, but if you go to the Sirah, Abraham was a Sabi, and the Sabis we know were worshippers of the moon and the stars. So that's odd, right? So that's
which, by the way, contradicts the story of Muhammad in the Quran when he said that his people were worshiping some idols made out of statues. I mean, he actually broke them. You cannot break a sun and a moon and a star. How can you break these stars and plants? And the one thing I'd like to really share about that before I lose my thought here is that, man, I lost my thought already. What you said earlier, when you said something about, the worship of the sun. Do you know that the original story in the legend of the Jews, do you have it somewhere coming up?
I'm not sure. What?
The original story of Abraham worshiping the moon and the stars and the sun. It is in the legend when he was 10 days old after drinking the milk from the finger, sucking the milk from the finger of Gabriel, and he starts walking at the age of 10, and he walk out of the cave. You have that story somewhere written somewhere there?
No, I think I may have mentioned it, but no. Don't think so.
I want you to get it, man. This is powerful. Can you find it, please? Please
Yeah, I just want to
look.
show this. I want you guys to see this something. This is the Kaaba in Mecca. Here you have the moon, the crescent moon. Here you've got three stars, right? And this effectively is the moon, right? Then this is the disk of the sun, right? And they move around this like the stars circling the center of the universe. So there seems to be the
Mashallah.
symbolism, this astrological symbolism within the design of the Kaaba. So you've got the stars, the moon, and it's very astrological. They don't admit to it, but even there's just this heavy emphasis on astrology, which
Where is the black stone fit in that?
that's a good question. It's supposed to be on the Yemeni corner, and yeah, I think it's a blend. It's a mix of multiple religions. Look at this. This is ancient religion going back 3000 BC, 2000 BC. You can see that this idea, the sun disk or the moon disk and so on, this goes way back. Islam is building on old religions, and this is to do with the South Arabian moon god religion.
Yeah.
So this goes way back.
We know for a fact. So far, I have not seen anything Muhammad came up with as new ideas or new doctrine or new belief. He just was a copy and paste guy. He may change a little bit, but every new belief in Islam is originated somewhere else. Muhammad did not come up with some. He did not invent a jack about Islam.
Yeah. So what was that about drinking milk from Gabriel? What was that?
No, look at the purse of Abraham in the cave. The purse of Abraham in the cave.
Is that in the Quran?
No, that's in the Talmud. That is in the Legend of the Jews.
Let me just see.
Legend of the Jews. And let's search for Abraham birth in the cave and the light. And then his mama left him there because the king Namrud.
Yeah, Abraham is hidden in the cave for years, emerges knowing the true God. Yeah, I didn't go into detail on the story. Yeah. So you want me to find the whole story?
The whole story would be awesome. Yes, indeed.
Give me a second. Let me try and find that for you. You should have let me know earlier.
Sorry, bro. Hey, that's the beauty of it. We're live right now. We can talk about it without fear, with assurance. You got it. You can do it.
Oh my God. Yeah, put me on the spot. Why don't you?
Hey, that's what the beauty of being ready in season.
Yeah. Problem is now I've got to do this last second, and the results may or may not be accurate.
No. If it's accurate, I'll let you know. If not, I'll tell you that's wrong. But what happened is Abraham his mama was pregnant during the Talmud. During the Namrud, the violent king, and she actually hid herself. She went to the cave at the time of the birth, and she birthed her baby Abraham.
This fool again. Palestine needs to be freed of Palestinians, and we need to give the Middle East. We need the one-state solution. We give the whole Middle East to Israel to manage. That would be great. Egyptian Christians live in fear of Muslim jihad. Just like, for instance, every year Muslims murder 100,000 Christians in Nigeria because Muslims will murder you because that's what Islam demands. That's what their jihad demands, right? So we know how dangerous, how evil, and how violent Muslims are, like the Muslim who murdered these people in Britain recently. And no amount of gaslighting by Muslims who don't want to admit the violence or lying about the violence in Islam. Read your first comment. Yeah, because Egypt used to be 100% Christian, but then, of course, because of the dhimmi laws, because of the way they subjugate and mistreat, ill-treat, and subjugate Christians, they've reduced that down to 10%, but it used to be 100%.
Or we can go with the propaganda of the Muslims that the Egyptian loved Islam and they believed in the Quran, which they have never read, which did not exist, and they just left Christianity because it's a falsehood and accept Islam because it's the truth. You see? If you are stupid enough to hear me, you can believe me.
Yeah. I mean, this guy keeps on coming on. He keeps making new accounts. He keeps telling the same lie. He's not very original. only
Well,
has the
that's
same
10%.
lie to tell.
What should we do? Should we kill the 10% to make you happy? What a
Yeah.
stupid idiot.
So obviously, I mean, look, you come on, you tell the same lie, you repeat the same story. Everyone, look, people dislike Islam. People don't like Islam. Everyone knows there's a pushback coming. People are sick and tired. Everyone knows in Europe there's going to be a backlash against Islam. We all know this. Everyone talks about it. It's open discussion now. People don't like Muslims in the UK are seen as freeloaders. They're lazy. They come there, they rape the women, they cause assaults, they murder people. And in
We
fact,
call that, we call that practicing Islam, brother. They go to England to practice Islam. Keep going. Go ahead.
yeah. And in fact, I think it's very important to raise this issue. When you talk about the 5 pillars of Islam, these are the 5 pillars of Islam because you know it's Christmas coming now. And we all know that Muslims are going to be murdering Christians at Christmas markets because that's what Muslims learn. That's what Islam teaches. This is required. See the 5 pillars here to stop Muslims from murdering people at Christmas markets. That's what Islam teaches. This is what people are learning. There is no
And they
evidence
will
that
find a
Islam is
way.
a religion of peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they will find a way to kill somewhere else, some other location, some other system, some other ideas, demonic, Allaholic ideas.
Yeah, he wants to claim that the Dhimmi laws are peaceful. If you read
Very
through the Sharia, you will discover that the Dhimmi laws are violent, they are totalitarian, they are oppressive. But of course, Muslims won't read the Sharia. They are embarrassed by it, humiliated by the truth. So, look, I think we've had enough of you now, and I think you can go away. So, bye bye. I have no interest in speaking further with you. I have no interest in your lies. So, have a good day. So, this is what Islam is. Islam is a religion of murder, it's a religion of war. There is no evidence Islam is peaceful. So, an individual Muslim may not be doing violence right now, but that doesn't affect the ideology in any way.
Nope.
This is the image of Islam that I have learned. Deadly
Sure.
violent. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's coming to Christmas. You know there's going to be murder at a Christmas market soon. It's coming. That's what Muslims do. Yeah, sorry, let me. Okay, so hold on. Let me find this. Yeah, okay, hang on. So now you asked me this story. So let's hope this is accurate and not false. I had to generate this on the fly. Okay, so let's get to that. Okay, on the night of Abraham's birth, Nimrod's astrologers foresee a child who will topple his order. Nimrod orders the male infants slain. But that's very much like the story of Moses in the Bible. I mean, that's very much.
It's a mix. It's a mix and confusion. And you see that all over the Quran.
So Terah conceals the newborn Abram in a cave for years to save him from the decree. Okay, that's very odd because it's like Moses in the water, the bulrushes. Nourishment God provides for the child miraculously. The milk motif appears in later retellings. Aha, so that's a later addition to the story.
Well, it is actually from the finger of Angel Gabriel. He used to give him the finger and he sucked on his finger. And that's how he gets
That's
his
similar to Mary, where Mary is given food by the birds and the angels feed her and all that as well in the Islamic retelling of Mary's story.
And she used to get the fruit of the wrong season. So the fruit of the summer she gets in the winter, and the fruit of the winter she gets in the summer. MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Okay, so when Abram emerges, he reasons from the heavens and nature and recognizes the true creator. But then the Islamic story of he looks at the stars and he rejects the stars because they set. He looks at the moon and he rejects the moon because it sets. And that idea is inspired by this storytelling.
But in the legend of the Jews, which I have it now both in Arabic and I want to go back to you in English. It is very simple. He actually, Abraham went out at night and he saw the moon. The first thing he saw the moon and he worshipped the moon. And then when the morning comes, the moon disappeared. So he stopped worshiping the moon. But and then the stars, and then he saw the sun. And the sun disappeared, and then the stars show up, and the sun disappeared. And that's when he was. But all this happened when Abraham was 10 days old. After he first time walked out of the tomb, out of the cave, being miraculously growing with the milk, his mother actually.
You broke up again, Usama. You're missing. Okay, Usama, you're not there. Okay. Well, let me send Usama a message. Okay, there he's gone now. Let me just send him a message telling me he froze. Yeah. Okay, let's hope that works. Okay, so what is odd though, that if Abraham came out of the cave when he was 13, how could Abraham have been like this prophet at 13 years old? That would be very, very odd. Sandra, I agree with you there. Yeah, it's a mishmash of multiple pagan sources compiled through the centuries, and they don't make any sense. So yeah, you're looking at pagan sources, Christian sources, you're looking at Jewish sources. It's just a whole mishmash of things. It doesn't make sense. Even to claim, for instance, recently there was a story, a good video that discusses the story really well, of the Syriac Peshitta being the Bible of Muhammad of the time of the within the Quran's Bible, as the Quran's Bible, the Peshitta, but even that doesn't account for a number of things which are not in the Peshitta because it was not complete. It lacked various books of the New Testament. Okay, so Usama, the message I sent him did not go through, so he must be having a network outage of some type. All right, so let me see. Then the Talmud also preserves the astrologer's prediction to Nimrod and Terah hiding in a cave. Abraham emerges at age 3. Okay, that's different. But he recognizes God at the age of 3. So how does a 3-year-old recognize God? How does a 3-year-old say, well, the moon, yeah, the moon rises and sets, that can't be God. The sun rises and sets, the stars rise and set, they can't be God. So there must be one God of the universe. So you've got 13, you've got 3, and that makes no sense at all. Give me a second. Let me call Usama. 1 second here. Okay, he says he's busy working on it. He's got a problem with the internet. He's hoping to fix it and come back. But as you know, Allah works in mysterious ways. Genesis Rabbah, the story, this chapter gives the idol shop and fiery furnace confrontation with Nimrod. It doesn't narrate the cave hiding, right? And about the milk, the specific motif that a doe or miraculously provided milk nourished the infant in the cave is found in later Midrashic expansions. So in Sefer HaYashar, not in Genesis Rabbah, Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer 26 gives the cave and the years and God's providence without the elaborate doe's milk image in the standard editions. So this is a story that's in some of the Jewish sources, but not in others. So yeah, but let's hope Usama comes back and super. Usama,
I'm
you are
back.
back. Yeah.
Hey, I had bad internet, so I moved to a real fast internet. Like, wow.
Yeah. You're frozen
Even
again,
if I-
but you're back. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't be serious. Froze again?
No, you're back. No, I was just telling them that in the one story, Abraham's in the cave for 13 years, and in the other one, he's in the cave for 3 years. However, how does a 3-year-old recognize that the moon is not God, the stars are not God, and then becomes a real prophet and says, how does
It's
a
a
3-year-old
miracle, brother. It's a miracle of Allah.
How does a 13-year-old do it? It's not possible. And then the milk issue comes much later. The milk story comes much, much later. This is not in Genesis Rabbah, but it's in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. And but then in other editions, it's not included. So it's inconsistent, but the Quran picked it up, or the Muslims picked up that story.
Yeah. Amazing. That's why we call it legend, myth.
Yeah, no. So, okay, so let's move on to your connection is still a bit fuzzy. Okay, so let me see. I think we've done that one. Yeah, so does that answer your question? That story is inconsistent across the Jewish corpus. It is known,
Sure.
but it's a later addition, and then somehow the Quran picks it up. Because I think the Quran likes these embellishments. It likes these little details. It seems to enjoy putting in these little details.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's very odd. Okay, so
Hmm.
Abraham also affirms false deities, but now we know that Abraham does it at the age of 3, which I wasn't exactly thinking on deep theological questions at the age of 3 myself, but maybe it's different, for them. So let me see. Isaac is announced twice and out of sequence, right? Quran 11:71 gives glad tidings of Isaac and Jacob during the angelic visit before Sodom's destruction. But then Quran 37 narrates the sacrifice scene and then afterwards announces good news of Isaac. That is a bit odd. Your thoughts there, Usama?
Well, it is. When I looked at what's written in Quran chapter 37, it actually destroyed all the argument I have with the Muslims if they just bothered to go and read their own scholars' interpretation. I mean, we think all Muslims in the world believe it's Ishmael, the one to be sacrificed. You go to Quran chapter 37 and you go to Al-Tabari, for example, and he blows them all up, literally by saying no. It starts
Yeah.
with Isaac, and then some say Ishmael, and Allah knows best.
But Ishmael is not named. Isaac is the only one named in the context of the sacrifice. Only Isaac is named.
Sure. Yeah,
And then somehow
Ishmael
they
was
insist,
yeah.
and then they insist that somehow it's Ishmael, but only Isaac is named.
But they lie, by the way, in the English translation by saying we announce the birth of Isaac. We give them the good news about the birth of Isaac. Why Muslim scholars in the English language added the word the birth of Isaac? So they do it on purpose to make you assume or believe that Isaac up to that point was not born of the story. You see what I'm saying? So he's talking about his son, and we do not know who is his son, and then Isaac will be born. No, that is BS. That's hogwash. That's not what the Quran says. We're talking
Right.
about his son, his son, his son, and we made that son, his son, Isaac, a great prophet.
And then O.R.A.Text makes a good comment here. It makes sense if the Quran originated in a heavily Jewish Christian group that took only some of these Jewish myths, or it was written for the purpose of preaching to Judaized groups with these. Yeah, I mean, clearly the context is very Jewish, Aramaic. There's definitely this Jewish Christian sort of element there. So Odon LaFontaine has a point here. These stories seem to be part of that context. It's definitely a
Yep.
Jewish, heretical, Christian, and Syriac context as well. So I think, I mean, the evidence is circumstantial, but it is growing and growing and growing, and it's becoming a mountain you can't ignore.
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
so that is very, very sensible. Okay, so
Absolutely.
the unnamed king in the fire episode, Quran 2:258 has a dispute with a king about life, death, and sunrise. And then Quran 21 has a mob that burn him episode without a named ruler. But of course, we know that this comes from Nimrod, who's named in the Jewish story. The text never links the king to the furnace. Only the later tafsir imports Nimrod from Jewish law to splice the scenes, to make sense of them.
But when I investigated about Namrud, tried to find out when Namrud lived, or where Namrud lived, or when Namrud died, the Jewish theologian or the Jewish historian did not know any details at all. But when I went to Muslim scholars, they gave us the date when he was born, and it was in the afternoon around 3 o'clock. I mean, it's amazing how they can give you details about somebody by the name of Namrud when the theologian of Jewish faith do not know anything about Namrud. So how in the world they tie Namrud to Abraham, I do not know. I do not even know at all if Namrud was during the life of Abraham, or Namrud have anything to do with Abraham.
I mean, do we
Period.
know if Nimrod even existed?
Yes, there is Namrud in the Bible, absolutely. Go look at the Genesis account about Namrud, and you find him in, I believe, Genesis chapter 10. Let me show it to you in a minute here. There's plenty of evidence about Nimrod, but not the Nimrod of Muhammad and the propaganda. What do you call this? Archaeologist. I'm sorry. The
So there's no evidence outside of the Bible for a historical king named Nimrod. So we have Genesis 10, 18 to 8 to 12. He's the mighty hunter, but there's no cuneiform king list, royal inscriptions, or Mesopotamian chronicles.
No, we do not know hardly anything about it.
Yeah, so there's no solid evidence. I mean, so there is
He was
that.
the son of Nimrod. Cush was the son. Sorry, Nimrod was the son of Cush, and he was a mighty guy. And he was a hunter, and that's in verse 9. And that's why we have the expression like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And I don't think he was an evil guy. I don't see from that verse here that he was a guy who's going to harm Abraham for any reason. I mean, who is Abraham? Until Abraham left Ur al-Chaldean, until Abraham went to Iraq, nobody knew anything about him. He just walked out. See, here's the problem. When you read the Quran, Lloyd, you see that Abraham was sent by Allah to his people, and he spoke to his father, and he spoke with him about the false gods they were worshiping, who cannot hear, who cannot see, and he broke these idols. That's actually Gideon in the Bible. And he destroyed the fire. That's actually Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the Bible. Way, hundreds of years after Abraham. So Muhammad confused, or those who wrote the Quran, confused the story of Abraham with all these different stories. When in reality, if you go to Genesis account and read, Abraham was in Iraq. God called Abraham. He and his wife Sarai. His name is Abraham at the time. His father Terah, his brother, and his brother's son, which is Lot. They were traveling together. They went to Haran, and in Haran, the father died. He was buried, and then they kept moving on until Abraham and his wife Sarah and Lot and his wife, they went all the way to the Canaan, the land of Canaan. There was a famine. They went to Egypt. They came out of Egypt. Now Abraham added Hagar to himself as a concubine or a gift or a slave. And then they split. Abraham went to the place where God called him to be a land of Canaan, and Lot liked the land of Jordan, so he crossed to the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is a biblical account. There's no Nimrod. There's no killing, breaking of idols. There's no burning in fire. All this are messed up, confusion. God help us. Another many stories of the Bible added to Abraham.
Right. So, yeah. Okay. So to move on to finish this point, move to the next one. So the Quran has all these disconnected stories with little detail, and it only becomes sensible because the tafsir imports stories from the Midrash that are themselves known to be legends or legendary additions, and it uses that. So, but then how are we to trust the tafsir anyway if we've got the Quran? It makes no sense. So then you've got the identity of the son, Isaac versus Ishmael. Quran 37 never names the son. Quran 11 promises Isaac and even Jacob. So now you've got Isaac and Jacob. There's no mention of Ishmael. Right? So the only mention that is relevant to that story is that of Isaac. Yeah?
Yeah, when you talk about the prophethood and the books and the wisdom, it is Jacob and his descendants, not Ishmael. Show me a verse where Allah in the Quran said Ishmael will receive revelation or his descendant will be prophet after him. No, nothing. Nothing about Ishmael. And okay, give me one of the names of the sons of Ishmael. We got 12 of them in the Bible. Can you give me one of them? In the Quran. We're not talking about Ishmael.
Yeah. And then you've got early Muslim sources, according to this, were split. Later Sunni consensus favored, of course, Ishmael for polemical reasons against Jewish claims. But there is no historical data to back up. There's no detail to back up the Quran's claim. It's an assertion without evidence, which is crazy. And even the scholars are apparently not clear on this issue. So you have to go outside of the Quran, and then you have to go to the tafsir, which is kind of very incestuous, because of course those guys are going to push the Quran's narrative, fabricate it, and even the tafsir, none of them merge or gel with each other. They all contradict each other. They all make up their own stories. Then they all borrow from the Jewish stories, but then they change the Jewish story. So it doesn't make any sense.
Myth. It is
Yeah.
a big mess.
Abraham's prayer for his father. Okay, so Abraham promises, or he prays for his father's forgiveness, right? I think, but also then
Yeah.
you have the story of Muhammad's forgiveness of his parents, or his parents going to hell. So obviously they because he talks about his family going to hell because they weren't Muslims, right?
Yeah,
So even
his
his
mom.
family they didn't believe, and then he's very nasty towards his parents. But then you have retellings where his parents are good people and they would go to. I mean, Muslims, they want to be. I don't know. They want to present it nicely, but it's actually a pretty dirty story. So he prays
Contradiction,
for.
Lloyd.
Sorry.
Now me ask a question. Was his father Abdullah or Abdullah? If he's Abdullah, the servant of Allah, why he's in hell? Is Abdullah is the worship of the idol Allah? Then yeah, he's in hell. Who changed the name from Abdullah to Abdullah?
But if it was Abdullah, but he was pre-Islamic, then who was the Allah that he was the slave of as well?
No, his real name is Abdullah, man. Have nothing to do with
Abdullah.
Allah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we've got in the tafsir, not the tafsir, we've got in the Sirah that Muhammad worshipped Allat, Manat, and Al Uzza. They named
Sure.
their children after Allat, right? Al Manat, right?
Yeah,
They named children after Al Manat, and they used to worship her as a god. That's the story that he and his wife Khadija worshipped Al Manat. So this is very odd that his children are named after pagan gods, and then if his father was a worshipper of Allah, then Allah clearly was not the Allah of Muhammad.
Nope. See, that's a problem. That's a chaos itself here. And if his mama really, when she birthed him, have the light came out of her, why she did not believe in her son to be a prophet? Why she died as a wicked woman, ungodly woman, whatever it was, as we know for sure, Muhammad.
True. If you look at Mary is visited by God, and she knew that she was bearing the Son of God, so she's a holy woman. Whereas, the same doesn't apply to Muhammad's parents, because they go to hell.
Both of them.
That is
And
crazy.
you know, this is from the strong hadith, Sahih hadith that Muhammad wept, and his disciple, actually his companions, wept with him. They didn't even know why he was crying. Why are you crying, O Prophet of Allah? He said, this is the tomb of my mother. And I begged Allah that he would remove her from hell, and he said no. I mean, how can you get clearer than that?
Yeah. Here's a question. Aladdin, the name Aladdin, right? Is that Allah's deen, or is it Allah's deen? The god Allah? Or is it the Allah?
In Arabic, ala ad-din. Ala is to put high. Ad-din is religion. Put the religion high. If you want to take it literally, this is not Allah, not Allah. Neither one. Ala ad-din.
Okay.
It's a different word.
So there's that. Okay, so I mean the whole parent question. There's this stuff here. Okay, so historical nonsense. Somehow Abraham was in Mecca, and he built the Kaaba, or he repaired the Kaaba, or there was no Kaaba.
Listen, if you believe, brother, if you believe the earth was folding for him to go from Mecca, from Canaan, the land of Canaan, to Mecca, you should believe anything else. You see, do you understand what the earth used to fold for him? Let me explain this to you. Imagine, here's the earth. Here is Mecca, and here is Canaan. You see, my two finger, Mecca and Canaan. Normally, it would take you a few weeks to make the trip. Yeah, it's over 400, 500, I don't know. Go online, look, do me a favor. Distance between Mecca and Israel. Mecca and Tel Aviv. Okay, Mecca and Jerusalem. How many miles?
Mecca and Jerusalem, I mean, you're looking at like 1,300 kilometers or something. So let me just see. There's a lot of distance. Let me find this. I actually have a section on that, and it is extreme. Here we go. Let's bring this up quickly. Here we go. So you have 1,200 kilometers.
Right. You see how big that is? Imagine, here is Mecca, and here is Israel. Muhammad said that the earth used to fall. Are you watching my hand? Are you watching my hand? You watch my hand? Up, touch each other. So Abraham can walk between Israel and Mecca in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Visit with his wife, with his son's wife, blah, blah, blah. And then he go back and then the earth open again. If you want to
Yeah,
believe in that, you can believe anything else about
that's like
Abraham.
900 miles, right? Supposedly she walked 900 miles
Nah,
across
you can go in 10 minutes.
uninhabited desert. Here's the thing: we know Hebron to Beersheba, right, is only 43 kilometers or 27 miles. And if you consider, because that is the area where Abraham settled, between Hebron and
Yeah.
Beersheba, she was in the deserts of Beersheba, right? And Abraham lived in Hebron. So even if you consider Jerusalem to Beersheba, that's 43 miles or 70 kilometers, which is far more reasonable than to walk 900 miles, 1,200 kilometers or something like that.
But if the earth folded for them, it's easy, man.
Right? And then look at this. I mean, let's just expand. The Zamzam is in Mecca, right? Hagar and infant
Yeah.
Ishmael traveled 1,200 kilometers with one bottle of water on foot across arid, uninhabited, harsh desert. Right? Abraham walks them there, then he leaves them under a tree with some dates and walks back 1,200 kilometers. Now, Hagar is not mentioned by name in the Quran, right? Now, she searches
Nope.
for water between Safa and Marwa, right?
Yep.
But it's supposed to be the world's oldest city there, but she finds nothing. There's nothing. And then an angel's heel touches the ground, or Ishmael's heel, or an angel's wing, or something digs the well, right? And so I've settled part of my descendants in a barren valley by your sacred house, the Kaaba. Now, if the Kaaba was there, how come she couldn't see it and couldn't go there for water? But they had to run. She's running between the hills looking for water, and the child is dying in the world's oldest city when they're literally next to the Kaaba in the world's oldest city.
Yep.
Now, this Islamic narrative is dated at the earliest to only 827 AD.
See, you give so much facts that you make me look like a fool. And you make Muslim look like very, very fool. But once again, I don't know why you ignore my statement. Do you believe the earth can fold? These 1,300 miles kilometer can fold?
Allah can work in mysterious ways, Usama. I mean,
Sure.
like
So if that's the case, that means they only travel for a few minutes. 10, 15 minutes, no big deal, you know?
Yep. And also, by the way, do you know that Ishmael and his mother are buried here in the Hatam?
Are you serious?
Yeah, according to Islamic legend, they are buried here in this red section here. They're buried right next to the Kaaba. Their bodies are here.
Do you know that she was Egyptian? She got her son a wife from Egypt, not an Arab, as Muslim sources and Muhammad told us. And I guarantee you, and I bet my life, she is buried somewhere in Egypt. I have no doubt whatsoever. Because after she died, Ishmael moved and he lived among his brothers, that is in the big desert on the right side of Israel, literally east of Egypt, east of Israel, near Shur, near Assyria. That's where he lived. Because later, when Abraham died, Ishmael and Isaac buried their father. You could not wait for a few weeks for somebody to go to Mecca. Hey, Ishmael, your daddy died. Okay, I'll be there in a couple of weeks. And then he go to bury his father. When the father Abraham died, he was buried in the same day. In the same day, Ishmael and Isaac were there to bury their father. You see,
so this, none
it's
of
so
this makes
much.
sense. I mean, the Kaaba was there. The Kaaba wasn't there. The Kaaba would be in there in the future. The Kaaba needed repairs. Abraham built the Kaaba. Adam built the Kaaba. Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba. They repaired the Kaaba. There were 365 idols in the Kaaba. The Kaaba was only for the worship of Allah. None of this makes any sense whatsoever.
Because you're an infidel, man. What do you expect? Say the Shahada and all this will clear up to you beyond your imagination.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the comment or the reference here, but I'll read it anyway. In Al-Tabari, the story of the death of the Islamic Zachariah, father of John the Baptist, is in line with the Talmudic story of the death of Prophet Isaiah by King Manasseh. So the death of, so Zachariah's father of John the Baptist is a copy of the story of the death of Prophet Isaiah by King Manasseh. So they stealing another story according to our source there.
Welcome to the normal way of writing of so-called Muslim scholars. They like a story here, they like a story there. They can mix them together and make them one story for somebody else.
Okay, so in the Quran 21, you have O fire, be cool and safe. So
No, and
this
please,
is the
brother.
motif that in Jewish tradition is with Abraham in the
Not
Midrash or with Daniel 3.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? But the Quran offers no cause for why they're in the fire, doesn't offer the place or names the enemy. So later on, the tafsir authors import the Midrashic Nimrod and the whole idol shop as explanation for the story. So to get context, they have to go outside the Quran to the Midrash, which is not even the Torah, and then they've got to also claim the Bible is corrupted, but yet they're reusing the same stories. Very convenient.
The books which Muhammad said they wrote by their own hand, claiming to be from Allah, Muhammad is using it, and his scholar after him is using it to help us to understand the short writings of the stories of the Torah in the Quran. It's a sad story.
So the conclusion here is that, let me just see, without going to all of this. So the text that is self-sufficient as revelation supplies its own coherent identities, chronology, and logic. And I think the Bible does that. It is self-sufficient, it stands on its own, it has sufficient details, there's enough to go on, right? And it's corroborated through archaeology, right? The Quran's Abraham cycle has ambiguities, an unnamed son, right? Disjunctions, it's got the king and the fire and stories, like where's the details? How do we end up here? How do we suddenly arrive here? And then it ends and there's no explanation. Right? Then it relies on tafsir that imports Jewish midrash and sirah that imports other stories to make the stories logical.
So I have a question for you. When Abraham's mother visited him in the fire, is this in the midrash? Is this in the Talmud?
Let me check because
she said, "Oh, Abraham, can your God, allow me to come?" To say yes, and she went and visited with him in the fire. They actually have a hot tea. They visit, she hugged him and kissed him. They got some tea and then she left him. And he stayed in the fire 40 or 50 days according to the legend of the Jews. I don't know. Muslim scholars write things as well.
So the mother. So let me see. Okay, the mother thing is a late development. So the Midrash has ancillary scenes. There are crowds gathering. There are relatives or onlookers that are reacting. And then the miraculous coolness makes the furnace like a garden. That's in Genesis Rabbah 38 and Sefer HaYashar. And so these provide the narrative details. Then obviously the mother visiting is something that the Muslims elaborated on. So in Islamic literature, some reports add that Abraham's mother or family approached and could talk with him. So the Genesis Rabbah says that his family were close by. So the Muslims just embellished that by adding his mom actually having a cup of tea and some scones with him.
How about the statement of his father that he said that Abraham God is the greatest or the best? He speak highly of the God of Abraham.
Should have asked me these questions earlier, then I could have done proper research instead of doing ad hoc searches. No, I mean, these things make mistakes, right? And
it's coming in my head now. It's coming in my head, man. I did not mean it.
So what was the question?
Abraham speaking highly of the God. I'm sorry. Abraham father speak highly of the God of Abraham after the miracle of the fire. I know this is what Muslim says. I know for sure that's what Al-Tabri says. But I wonder if it come from any other legends before Abraham, before Muhammad.
Let me find out, because nope, that's a purely Islamic development.
That's Islam. It has nothing to do with Talmud or Mishnah or anything
That's
else. No.
that's their embellishment. So that's, I mean, look, if you
And
take
it
this
makes the
narrative,
matter worse, Lloyd. It makes the matter worse. Why? Because according to the Quran, Abraham's father died as an infidel, but he saw the miracle of his son being in the fire, and he was there for 40 or 50 days, and he came out alive. Why could he believe in that God of Abraham, the God of his son? Okay. If you go with me, if you don't mind, Lloyd, to Shadrach,
yeah.
Meshach, Abednego in the book of Daniel, do you see what happened to in the end of the story when they came out of the fire alive? What happened?
Uh,
Daniel 3, I believe.
yeah, I'm just finding it. Blah blah. Daniel 3:16-28.
Yeah. Read to me what happened in the end of the story. And think about the normal reaction of the king in Daniel's story about these three boys who came out alive. Let's go from verse.
So let me see. And he commanded the most mighty. Which verse is that? 28. So okay, so these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, rose up in haste, and spoke, and said unto his counselors, Did we not cast these three men bound into the midst of the fire? And they said, They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. And he said, I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Right?
Keep going. Keep going.
Nebuchadnezzar came to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. And they came forth from the midst of the fire. The princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. And Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That is where the Islamic story would come from then. They're modeling it after what the king says here, and Nebuchadnezzar says after these guys survived the fire. Who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort.
And then he puts them in power place in his kingdom. This is the normal reaction. If this is a true story, what would you expect of the king would do if these three guys in the fire came out of the fire with no harm? When you go read the story of the Quran and the interpretation of so-called Muslim scholars, it's stupid. I mean, Abraham did not believe. Namrud did not believe. No, do you know how Namrud died in the story of the Quran?
No.
Allah sent, that's a Tabari interpretation, Allah sent to Namrud a king and to guide him to the true one God. And he refused to listen to him. So he sent him again. He refused to believe in him. He sent the same king third time, and he refused to believe. So the king told Namrud, you bring your armies, and I'll bring my armies. We're going to go in war. And Allah sent on Namrud flies, huge number of flies that they covers the sunlight from the earth. And these flies ate their flesh, the soldiers of Namrud's flesh, and they drink all their blood. And one of these flies went inside the nose of Namrud. For 400 years, he was in pain, and he had a big hammer made out of steel. He used to hit his nose and hit his head, and then he died. You see now, it's not just a fairy tale of the story, it's a fairy tale in the interpretation of the story, which is a great fabrication by Al-Tabari and others like him, which make Muslim scholars look stupid.
So we have blood-sucking vampire mosquito daytime flies.
Not mosquitoes. Please don't fly, not mosquitoes. Please be careful. Do not corrupt the word of the great scholar Al-Tabari.
Oh my
You see what's
God.
happening? the more you read about Talmud, about Al-Tabari and his interpretation to Abraham story, the more it becomes so stupid.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it is dumb. Sorry,
He
man.
was
My
like,
brain
listen,
just hurts.
he was a king for 400 years, and he was so mean to Abraham and blah, blah, blah. And then he will suffer for 400 years. So he lived to be 800 years, even though people in Abraham days did not
Okay,
live over
guys. Look.
200 years.
Here's the thing. I'm going to start now putting tissue paper in my nose because I don't want to die from a fly in the nose. Okay, so if you guys don't mind, that was a brain stabbing image there, and I am now
But
traumatized.
you're going to look
So I'm
weird.
gonna. Shall I just like
Listen,
do two of
listen,
these?
not
What do
only
you
you're
think?
going to look weird, you're going to sound weird too. You know what happened when you close your nose? You talk funny.
I mean, just for my own safety, because look, we are upsetting Allah right now, and Allah could send flies here, and they could fly up my nose, and then, I mean, it's bad enough
But,
when you get
I mean,
flies in your tea, but now flies in your nose, I mean, who eat you from the
yeah,
inside, that is not good.
but seriously, in a serious note here, which Muslim come to your program right now and tell us that he believes that Al-Tabari is a scholar? I called Al-Tabari one of the dumbest people in planet Earth. A good 15 years ago when I was writing my book, exposing the truth about the Quran, the revelation of error. Because that's what I put in my book. I actually translated their garbage Arabic to English, which is so stupid. You can laugh. It doesn't matter. You
This
can
is
laugh.
so
But it is
funny.
so stupid.
Oh my god, I can't believe they actually say these things. I mean, look, we're trying to understand what's going on here. We're trying to make sense of this, but the story
And I'm
makes
trying
no
to
sense.
help you to realize how stupid it is. You don't make sense of stupidity, brother.
Okay, so fine, let's slowly wrap up some here on this
Yeah,
contradiction. So there's no genealogy for Abraham, except mention of his father Azar, which contradicts the Torah, which has the name Terah, right?
sure.
There's no chronological sequence, right? There's no proper chronological sequence in the Quran. You have fire, angels, migration, sacrifice. There's no named wife, Sarah, nor concubine, Hagar.
As a matter of fact, I don't know if you get this coming up here. The two sons, Isaac and Jacob, they are actually brothers in the Quran. Did you write this down?
Yes, I think
And
we
Allah said
discussed
that
it when
we
we did
gave
that.
him Isaac
We
and
did that.
Jacob. That's it. The two sons. That's
Yeah,
not
it
that.
doesn't mention them as separate in time.
Father
And
and
also,
son and grandson. No.
and then the promise of Isaac is also out of sequence, I think. It's not in sequence. It doesn't explain the logic between them. But the Quran assumes that people know the story. So they're talking to people who have read the originals.
Depends which originals, the Talmud originals or the original of the Torah.
Both. I mean, yeah. Which son is sacrificed is not named. So the narrative order is wrong, right? Between this, the promise of Isaac, but also the son is not named, except that Isaac is mentioned immediately
And
after the sacrifice.
yeah,
There's no place names like Ur, Haran, Canaan. And in fact, if you look at that part of northern Syria, southern Turkey, there are towns that are named after the brothers and uncles of Abraham. There are towns still named after the family. They're
and
acknowledged
by
to
the
have
way,
lived there. There are
yeah,
towns called Haran, I mean, which was his brother's name, right? And others.
yeah. You know how many cities are mentioned in the Quran in the entire book? Hey, can
No
you hear me,
idea.
brother?
Sorry.
One. It's a wrong name, Becca.
Wow, that's a lot of names. That's Becca. Is that the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon?
Who knows? I mean, it's just you talk about no names of Haran or Canaan or other cities. There's nothing mentioned in the entire Quran,
I
not
mean,
just in
Haran
forget
still
about
exists.
Haran.
Canaan still exists. Ur still exists. At least we know because we've found them. We've got tablets. We've got evidence. There's archaeology. Canaan, we know where
Brother,
it was. We've got places.
in,
We've got kings. We've got
in,
coins. We've got tablets. We've got writings. We've got.
in my class I have with Dr. Ortiz, we have to do archaeology class. It's a 3-hour class. I loved it. I wish I had 30 more hours. In that class, we have a piece of paper, a white paper, and on it you have the map of some river and some seas. And you're supposed to answer the question to put all the names of the old cities of the entire promised land. Imagine that. That was the hardest question. And if you do not know where you put the name, you put it in the wrong place. You lose two of them because you're going to exchange one for one. Imagine I have to study and memorize the entire cities, old names, and then in the new class, the new names, because some of the old cities' names has changed to new names. And before I let you go, I'm here, by the way, today, before we let go, I'm going to ask my friend Kent to come and talk to you and talk to our wonderful audience, because Kent is archaeologist. This guy I'm staying with right now, he actually goes to Israel and dig there every year. Every year. He's been many months and months of his life digging in Israel. So before I leave, before we go, just give me 10 minutes. I want you to talk to Ken about
no problem, no hassle. I just but a couple of things. This is very interesting. I mean, I'm actually finding this very interesting because I'm learning now as I'm working with you through this. I mean, besides the fact that it's incoherent, it's great to. I mean, this is a really interesting discovery and explanation. But Ave Maria says Beelzebub in the Bible literally means Lord of the Flies, which is fascinating. And so a couple of things. This is from my monotheism talk. Right, this is from a book called The Old Testament, 50 Proofs for the Bible, and from another text called the Holy Scriptures, according to the Masoretic text, the New Translation, right? A village of Haran exists in Turkey today, a new village standing on top of the old village of Haran from the Old Testament period. Found near Haran in Turkey are villages that bear the names of Abraham's great-grandfather and his grandfather, Serug and Nahor, from Genesis 11. Haran was the father of Lot, right? The cities of Ur and Haran both had the moon god as their main deity. Terah, father of Abraham, worshipped other gods. Joshua 24:2 discusses it. And he moved his family from Ur to Haran. Right? So just so you know that they speak of Haran, Canaan, and Eden, and the traffickers of Sheba. The Bible is full of details. The Quran lacks details, but these cities exist. They were not in Mecca. These people were in Syria and Turkey.
I remember some of the things Dr. Ortiz shared with us in that class, which I was in 24 years ago or 23 years ago. And he said that some of these cities, they were not there. And the skeptics start making fun of the Bible because the Bible mentioned a city and it's not there. And guess what? As you just said here about Haran, they dig deep. They went 10 feet deep, 15 feet deep. And guess what? They found the cities. They found the streets. They found the homes. They found the places of worship. Down below the new cities or the piece of the land which is covered with sand and whatever come afterwards. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, I see it now.
Here's Iran. Here's the border. They're about 15 k's over the border, more or less. And very near to that is Göbekli Tepe. To Haran. So if we look, they're very close to each other. It's only about 60 k's difference, well, 50, from Haran to Göbekli Tepe, which is very interesting. I mean, and it's so this area is known. It's called Haran after Abraham's family. It's crazy stuff. So this is not in Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
Right. And let me just see. Okay, I'll skip all that. Let me jump back to where we were. Let me close this again. Don't need that anymore. Let's go. Okay, so there's no place names. Ur, Haran, Canaan, all erased. You would think Canaan is a name going back thousands of years. You'd think the Quran would say Canaan. That's crazy, it doesn't. Okay, you have the fire shrine furnace. There's no background. There's no context.
By the way, Canaan, which is Canaan, is mentioned by some of the Muslim scholars to be actually Noah's son, not grandson. So they mention the name in the writing, but they give it to the wrong person.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, Ur is a very popular. So Ur is much older than Mecca, and Ur exists.
Sure.
But Mecca does not exist. We can't find Mecca on a map until when? The 800s? So, and then the Kaaba episode drops in out of absolutely nowhere. So, Tafsir patching with Midrash, Tafsir al-Tabari, he adds the idol shop belonging to Terah. It's a narrative that Abraham leaves the axe in the big idol or a stick. Takes it from Genesis Rabbah and Talmud Pesahim in 118. The fire episode names Nimrod as king. The fiery furnace and astrology omens adds Abraham hidden in the cave as an infant. taken from Genesis. Rabbah. The Tafsir explains Abraham as a boy discovering God, rejecting the sun, moon, and the stars, except Abraham's 3 years old. Boy.
Actually, in some I read 10 days old, not 3 years old, 10 days old. Before his mama came back in the following day when he turned 11. 11 days old, not years.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, so look, what can we say? There's birds of resurrection. We didn't cover that story. But yeah, I think this gives us, the hospitality of the angels, let's do that. Restores the names of the guests, details Sarah's role, discourses of the lot, taken from Genesis. Right? So questions we can ask. Can you tell Abraham's story from the Quran alone with the genealogy to death and the names and the sequence? And it cannot be done without the tafsir and the Jewish Midrash.
Well, good luck. If you can do that, you'll be a genius.
Yeah, so the Quran story is a derivative adaptation, presupposing and borrowing from earlier, more complete narratives and oral traditions. It cannot stand alone. And it uses Abraham selectively, polemically, and symbolically to push a totally different agenda. So it's just plagiarism, and it reshapes it to push a given agenda. I think we discussed this last time. Shall we? So by stripping away the genealogy, by the covenantal history, that's the covenants that God makes with Abraham and the promises that he makes, right? And the narrative context, which explains how we get from A to B, the Quran turns Abraham into some sort of abstract figure who validates Muhammad's message. So he's invoked in slogans like Abraham was not a Jew or a Christian, but a true Muslim, right? Quran 367. Sorry?
Yeah. Hanifan. There's a true Muslim, Hanifan.
Yep. But Hanifan also, if we look at the history of that word and we look at the context, that's an upright pillar. That becomes back to a pagan god. Right. Man. So there's a lot to discuss there and unpack there as well for the future. But the Quran's Abraham is used primarily for identity building. It gives them some sort of credibility based on falsely usurping a historical figure. So it's a tool, a theological tool, to claim that Islam is the restoration of Abraham's original faith, and it redefines Abraham away from Israel's history and towards the Quran's own agenda. So it is plagiarism of the worst kind. Yeah, Hanpei, exactly, pagans. And in fact, the Muslims were accused of being Hanpei, which is heretics, and they adopted the word. So they called it, yes, we are Hanifan. They were called, just like the Christians were called Christians, and they adopted the name. By the same token, they were called Hanpei, heretics, and they adopted the name. So they said, yes, we are heretics. So if you go back in the history, yes, the Muslims are heretics. Hello and welcome.
Hi there. Good to see you.
Just a minute. Now you can talk. Kent Larson, my friend. This is Lloyd, a friend from Poland.
Hi, Lloyd.
And hello. Kent is the man who works with his hand to prove in every discovery that the Bible is the true word of God. Just for how much percentage of the land of Israel? I mean, they've been digging up for 5% of the land?
Yeah, something like that. So much more to dig up. Yeah.
So why don't you give us some question to Kent Larson here. Hopefully this will open the floor for the audience to understand something about the archaeologist, the work of it. How long have you been doing archaeology in Israel?
I've been involved in archaeology in Israel since 1984. And
84 or now? What are we doing?
82 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more than we're doing that before I was born. What is that?
Not quite. But yeah, we were looking for the history of Israel and the conquest of Joshua, and that has been a controversy for years. And looking for the evidence for the city of Ai was my original participation there. And
nice.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. I started a place called Kirbet Nisha, and we end up shifting. We didn't find enough evidence for LB1 pottery. We have to have LB1 pottery. That'd be like you're talking 15th, 14th century on through there. And so we moved to a site called Kirbet El Makader, and we found evidence there that matched that time period. And we found walls, and we found 4 socket stones, gate socket stones. So
Interesting.
it had a gate, and it was on the correct side of the site as well.
Yeah, if you know, there's a fantastic discussion on this on Expedition Bible, which is an archaeology channel which does biblical archaeology. That's their focus. And you go to the problem of Joshua's eye solved. Let me just go there quickly. It says excavating Joshua's eye. And they believe they have the evidence now to prove it goes back. There's been lots of work being done, and there was claims and counterclaims and back and forth. But they believe now that they have solved this. Because I follow this channel, I watch what they do, I read various stuff, I subscribe to Biblical Archaeology, to the organization, and they seem to have solved the story of the Battle of Ai, and they have the evidence to prove it, I think. So fantastic work. I mean, amazing if you're involved with this.
Yeah, it looks like the dig of Titus Kennedy, I believe it is there at Tel. I think it is. You're looking at there, thinking?
So let's see, Beth El and I. So they.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's fantastic. I mean, amazing, because I watched this. It is an incredible story. So how did you get involved in archaeology? What made you decide to go that way?
Oh, I was at a Bible conference in Joppa, Missouri, and one of the workshops had to do with this dig. And the leader of the workshop gave a presentation on his participation as a supervisor of the dig. And since I'm kind of I was a farmer at the time, and so working in the dirt with my hands is kind of a thing I do. And so plus I had an interest in the Bible, obviously, and then in archaeology as well. So then I signed up for that expedition, and so it just went from there. So I've been with him ever since.
Okay,
we're presently at Shiloh right now. I'm digging
Shiloh.
Looking for the
so what is the importance of confirming a biblical story like Ai or Shiloh from an actual archaeological dig? What is the benefit for us? How does this?
Establishes the authenticity of the Bible. Actually, when you find the Bible talks about it, the Bible is actually history. It's not a bunch of stories or myths. It's based on a history, and Jesus affirmed that as well. And when you make discoveries confirming that history, and that just gives the Bible that much more authenticity and credibility.
You know, something I've used often on the channel is to speak of archaeology, because I follow archaeology, because I mean, there's stuff about Pontius Pilate that's been discovered. There's so many different names and ships, and whereas I do ask people, okay, the Bible is literally used as either a guide to guide archaeology. Let me just take that away again. So it's either used to give people an indication where to dig, what to dig for, or to identify things that are found. And then I say, so the Bible is literally used by archaeologists as a legitimate discovery tool or identification tool.
The GPS for traveling, man.
Yeah. But how much archaeology has the Quran inspired or been part of?
Becca. There is a city, it's called Becca in the Quran, man. Allah mentioned it. Becca.
So how has the archaeology helped you? I mean, to confirm your faith, and what's the most interesting discovery you've made and things that people should know about?
No, we're right now presently we're working in Shiloh, and we're looking for the gate. We think we found the gate entrance. Remember the story of Hannah and Eli, and so that's where I think it fell off the wall. I believe.
What about share with us about something you discovered? Do you have anything to show us?
Oh, me? Yeah. Personally, when I was working in Kirbet Nisha originally, the first day I was assigned to a cave, and that's where they kept the wheelbarrows in this cave. And the first day I was digging, I started digging, and I found a groove marked in a stone. It was in a circle, and it was definitely not natural. It was man-made. Turned out what I discovered was an olive press buried in the cave, which was at the time maybe the first or second one ever found in a cave. And so that got the attention of the Israeli Antiquities Department, and they came out, and that was pretty cool. And I found pottery kilns, a couple pottery kilns that dated back to the Greeks, and also a mikveh, Jewish mikveh, where they did their immersions. I dug the second half of that out as well.
Do you have anything to show us right now?
Right
I am
now?
confused you with my.
Not right now.
Oh, come on. You got something you showed me
Nah,
before.
that belong. Israel's got it. My dig group's got it. So yeah, I'm just have to listen to what I say, I guess.
So I was trying to spotlight you guys, but I was not getting it to work.
Do you wanna join me and Kent and one of the trips in Israel where you can carry some dirt in a bucket and help digging for 2 weeks?
2 weeks, man. I wish I had enough leave. I don't have a lot of leave here in Poland, but I would love to come I'd come for a week.
How about 1 week? You and I will come back and leave him there. He goes there every year.
Oh, that is fantastic. You really go every year?
Yeah,
Yep.
I was there in 23 and 24. I didn't go this year, probably fortunately, because there was so much chaos with the rocket attack on Tel Aviv airport. And there were a lot of delays in flights and so on.
What is one find that you think has really confirmed an age-old or at least a contentious Bible story that people, atheists and others will say, well,
There's one. I mean, when they found the house of David in a stone up there
wow.
in Tel Dan.
And did it have an inscription saying, Allahu Akbar, I worship only the one God there is?
Has never been found. I doubt you'll ever find it.
Are you saying there's no evidence that David was a Muslim? What is this?
Not at all. That confirms the biblical account that he did exist. That was a controversy at one time. And so that was confirmation he did exist. So we have things like that. Yeah.
How about the discovery of Achab and Jezebel? This is a brand new discovery. I don't know if you guys know about them, that they found the ring of King Achab. For in his kingdom rule. And they also did not believe that there was a king by the name Achab and his wife Jezebel, the evil woman. Yeah. So now they found enough evidence, physical, archaeological evidence, that king and his evil wife did exist. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Every day, Lloyd, some new discovery to fit the Bible. Now, here's my question to you. How many discovery, to be honest now, how many discovery in all the digging there goes against the teaching of the Bible?
None. There is none, actually. It all confirms the scriptures.
Do you think, Lloyd, to allow archaeologists to go to Mecca and do some digging?
I mean, look, I'd love to dig between the Hatam and the Kaaba and find the bodies of Ishmael and his mother, because they were supposed to be buried within 2 meters of the Kaaba wall. I'm not sure why they weren't found, right?
They're not going to let you get near there. If you start digging in the ground,
the Saudis are going to allow 1 day a week to allow non-Muslims to go to Mecca.
To do what?
I have no idea, but apparently they're starting to be a little more flexible.
Throw stones?
1 day a week you can go to Mecca if you are not a Muslim.
I mean,
but I thought you have to take a visa to get to Mecca, and the visa is you have to say there is no God except Allah and Muhammad.
No, I think they're allowing it for tourism purposes or whatever. There's some change coming.
As they try to convince the world of Islam, it's one of the steps of deception of da'wah. Is that what they're trying to do?
Who knows? They're trying to be more open, but yeah, I mean, look, if there was archaeology to be found when they were building all those buildings in that country, they would have, in that city, they would have found something, and they've got nothing. And also, you know what's crazy? In the war with Yemen, the museum in the museum in northwestern Yemen that contained all of the archaeological evidence of early Arabia and of the pagan influences that are evident within the Quranic story, that museum was precision bombed.
So they can destroy everything in it.
Yeah, 12,000 pieces of old archaeology destroyed with a precision bomb by the Saudis.
Maybe America did that. The infidels, because they don't want the Muslim to see the truth about Islam.
No, that was done by the Saudis. Yeah, they bombed it and crazy stuff. But that would prove a lot of the pagan sources of Islam, and I would verify, in fact, many of the stories from the Sirah would give you the background and context and evidence of that. So tell me, within the archaeological context, there's one thing that's always interesting for me is the Exodus, because I know there's a lot of controversy, but slowly the evidence is building. There's the evidence for when Moses received the or at least the discussion around where Moses received the 10 Commandments, that mountain, with a blackened top, which is now discovered in Arabia. At least there's that discussion. And do you think there's also another thing that is being discovered that's slowly starting to, the pieces are coming together to prove another piece of the biblical tale? Can you maybe tell us about that?
Well, I know they're looking for the crossing where the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, and the significance of that, where that might be. The term Reed Sea is out there, what that means, and it's with its location in relationship to Mount Sinai.
Yeah, because people have found wagon wheels of what looks like old Egyptian-style wagons on the seabed. I mean, so there's little bits of evidence now coming up, and where they seem to have stayed for the 40 years, where they camped when they came out across the sea, and then where they camped and moved. There seems to be evidence that's slowly being found. The Biblical Archaeology Site and Expedition Bible is slowly putting together pieces. I like the channel. They don't seem to exaggerate, but they're saying, look, we're starting to find evidence. We're figuring out where to look. We're piecing together the narrative. Well, what about the mountain where Moses supposedly received the 10 Commandments? Because that mountain has long been known in Arabia, in Saudi Arabia, by the locals and stuff.
Yeah. Lloyd, first they saw that the Mount Sinai is in Sinai Desert, between the two ears of the Gulf of Suez and the Gulf of Aqaba. Obviously, that was false. They saw that the crossing of the Red Sea was in the Gulf of Suez. That is false. And now we know for sure that the crossing is in the Gulf of Aqaba, which is the ear on the right side, and the Mount of Allah, the Jabal Allah in the Arabia is actually the true places, as you said, with the burning smoke in the top of it. That's exactly what happened when God came down and spoke to Moses. It was burning at the top of that mountain. From archaeology work, it looked like it has been burned for not just any fire. It's a severe fire, which is fit with the description in the Bible about God coming, and the mountain was burning, and the thunder and the lightning and everything.
So do you agree with that thesis?
Well, I mean, it's still in controversy right now. They continue to look at the evidence, and I'm with a big group called Associates for Biblical Research, so they're involved in that as well.
Okay, yeah. So I follow you guys. Well, at least on YouTube, I follow that research. It's fascinating stuff. It is
really.
His people, the people they work down there, and he go and join them when you don't want to come and join us for 2 weeks. What is wrong with you?
I will come along, and I have soft hands.
I'll buy you breakfast every day and coffee.
Yeah, I'll come and we'll talk about this, right?
You got him flustered.
I'm trying to push Lloyd to go from Poland to Israel, and here I am going all the way from Minnesota to Israel. I mean, it's like 5 times further away. It's only like 2 hours your flight, sir, to Tel Aviv.
Righty. We will talk about this. One question, there was something, a topic that you raised. The fact that Saudi Arabia has been destroying artifacts, destroying archaeological sites, rock inscriptions, and things that bring attention to Islam in a negative light. There's so many things that have disappeared. And then also, even in Turkey, the government doesn't allow excavation of various sites because to do so would actually either prove a pagan origin or undermine the Islamic narrative. There's a lot of that in Saudi. Have you come across that, and your thoughts on that?
I have not myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you haven't done any digs in Turkey, Haran, or Saudi, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What are your thoughts on why they would be unwilling to A, allow digs, or B, destroy sites that contain old archaeology that would prove a negative thing about Islam?
Well, it shows a lack of transparency, for one thing. If you're trying to destroy things or hide something, that means you have a narrative that may well be false to begin with.
And that they know it.
Yeah, they know it. Yes, that's why. That's
well,
why
you're not going to destroy something unless you know something is wrong there, or it's going to ruin some of your solid beliefs.
Sure, yeah. So
Mhm.
it shows a lot of transparency. Like
How about if we promise him we go there and dig softly and tenderly in the Saudi Arabia land? Would he allow us?
maybe we can march heavily or lightly. Okay.
That's a word of Allah.
Yeah,
Carrying riding on camels or walking on foot.
there you go.
That's what Allah meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, if they would let people into Mecca to look for evidence that Mecca was an ancient city, that would finally settle that question, because Mecca is, I mean, there's so many cities around Arabia that are attested from long before Mecca, but Mecca's not on that list. Crazy stuff. It's a theological assertion. It is not a factual reality.
If Mecca is a real old city, it has to go back 1,800 years before Christ, when Ishmael was lived there with his mama Hagar. That is a 3,800 years. There's no way you can tell me they have any evidence of that. I don't think Mecca even existed in the 7th and 8th centuries. Good luck.
No, there doesn't seem to be evidence for that. So yeah, that's fascinating. That is really, really fascinating.
See, I saw it since I am here with Kento Larson, the famous one. You know that you can read his name and his pictures in magazines and books of all the digging he did on all these years, and nobody even knows about him, of all you people. Now they can get a little bit knowledge here and learn about Kent Larson.
Right. So he'll be in Who's Who.
Who's who? Kent Larson.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
he
gonna
Usama's friend?
appear in a magazine one day. It's going to be called "What's That?" You know.
No, what's that?
What's
Who's that? Yeah. Who's
What's
that? More of that, yeah.
No, I'm serious. I know Brother Kent now for plenty of years, many years, and every time I see his name written in a magazine or I see his pictures taken with his artwork, his archaeological digging work. I am so proud of this man, and I'm not saying that what I'm about to say to anything but the truth. He's not that rich guy, but he will save every dime he can to make a trip to Israel every year he can. Even though I think he can use that money for something else, buying a new car, remodel his house, make his life a little bit more comfortable. He does not care about all that. And he cares about making one more trip to dig a little bit deeper or some more new places to prove the words of God to be true, to prove the history of the Bible to be true. What a humble man. I am so honored to be staying with him under his roof, in his house, every time I come to his area here.
Yeah. One question I've asked people who support the whole Palestinian narrative, I've asked them, so what are the names of the first 3 kings of Palestine? What was the name of the currency of Palestine? How many coins have you found, and where have you found them? And what was the name of their religion, their holy book? Have you found their temples? Can you point me to the first Palestinian religious temples? And I always get a lot of silence. I'm not sure why.
The silence is deafening, right?
Like they're an ancient nation that existed before Israel. And where do the Romans write about them? Where does anybody write about them in 2,000 years ago? And just silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a problem with the history of their narrative, isn't there? For sure.
No.
Zero.
What's
It's
But
not in the
Jasko
book.
says, according to Al-Tabari, the real Arabs are Amalek, and they settled in Medina. You know what's interesting? If you look at Amalek, Amalek is located historically where Gaza is now. The regions overlap with the Amalek, where Gaza is, and it's the same. And they were the enemy of the Jews, and they settled down in the same place, which I just found just an odd coincidence.
But somehow they made them Arab Muslims. Live in Medina? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Can we see the Shahada right now?
We can do the Shana Na. Good night, sweetheart. Yeah, it's time to go home. No, I'll give up.
All right. Thank you. Keep your daily job, man. I don't want you to go broke. I have to send you donation. I don't want to do that. God is good. Well,
very good.
I just thought it's good to have Kento to come and chat with us a little bit. That's not something happen all the time. It's once in a lifetime. Yeah. So, thank you, Kento.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, brother.
Great to be
Any other question from our people in the chat? Anybody have a question?
No, you've got Ave Maria says if you ever come to Detroit, the house is open to you if you ever need a place to stay.
I'm
She's
coming tomorrow. Do you have coffee and ice cream?
Ice cream, yes.
Hey, I will honor to if I am in Detroit. I go to Chicago and Michigan once a year. So it's when I go there, when I go to Detroit, I count my minutes to get out of the city. And Dearborn, same way. Get when can I get out of here? Finish my speaking engagement, leave. But next time, you never know. Keep in touch with me. If I can have your info, I will give you a visit. Lord's willing.
all right. Yeah. So okay. Well, then thanks. I guess we'll call it a night, and we will meet up again next
All the
week
night? Yes,
for
sir.
another exciting analysis of the world's most brain dead book. This hurts my brain, but
You'd be surprised. Listen, Lord, you'd be surprised. Between now and next week, they may discover some real archaeological evidence of the existence of something about Islam in the Saudi Arabia Peninsula. You'd be surprised.
we'll keep our eyes out for some good news. I don't think there is any though, 'cause,
You see that because you're Islamophobe, because you're an infidel, because you hate Muslims and Islam. That is the problem. That is your problem exactly. I know it.
I'm of the view that we need far more Islamophobia than we have today. Excess amounts of Islamophobia would be good because then we'd stay Christian and Western, and we would keep those dangerous ideas where they belong, and just keep them packaged and contained where they should
Amen.
be.
Amen.
Okay.
I agree. Good. Thanks, Lloyd. Appreciate it, brother. Thanks, Ken.
Good.
Thank you so much, Lloyd.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
talk.
Take care. Good night. God bless everyone. See you soon. Bye bye.